do these meetings actually achieve anything?
I think usually they're more of a kind of spectacle than an actual than a place where anything's actually achieved. It's more about sort of posing together in the pictures. You saw, with their shirts unbuttoned, their wives all go off on a little hike. But I actually do think that this one does seem to be different. The sense of unity, putting Ukraine back to the top of the agenda. I sense that it had kind of fallen out of people's consciousnesses a bit, and this attack, teamed with happening during the G7 in the way that it has really galvanised leaders together again, and we are seeing significant escalation in troops. This was going to be confirmed in the NATO summit in Madrid. I think there's going to be a change of strategy in the Balkans, so it was a sort of a tripwire strategy where if Russia was to invade somewhere like Estonia, then NATO would come in. It sounds like they're changing that strategy to be in a much more better position to defend and prevent an attack on a Balkan country. So it does seem like there's a real change in strategy that has happened at this meeting.
Interestingly, there's going to be increasing pressure, not just in the UK, but on all the G7 members, isn't there, to invest more on defence. I was just listening and actually reading this in the Daily Star this morning. Lord Dannatt was giving evidence in Parliament yesterday, and he said that during the days of the Cold War, not that long ago, we fielded 4 armoured divisions in Germany. We cannot field a single armoured division at the present time, and there is a land war going on in Europe. The situation is untenable, and the government must do something about this very soon. I mean, when you hear someone with the gravitas of Lord Dannatt saying something like that, it's alarming given this context, isn't it? It's
extremely alarming, and more alarming still is the fact that the British Army is set to have a reduction in troops by around 10,000. And I think your previous guest was talking about parallels with World War II. The clear parallel here is appeasement. We have been complacent, we've run down our armies, we've been completely flaccid and unresponsive when Putin has attacked us on our own soil. We did nothing about Syria, and I think now we're seeing the serious consequences. We've been weak and we've been complacent, and Putin has noticed.
Elizabeth, is that the way you read it?
I think it's easy to criticize Western leaders in hindsight to say, oh, we should have invested much. We shouldn't have reduced our armed forces as much as we did in the early 2000s. But what's important is what's happening at the moment. And as Alice said, there is more investment happening in our armed forces. The problem, though, is that now Western leaders are all trying to build out our armed forces at the same time. So we are all going to the same weapons manufacturers who have full order books and can't really keep up. So it is really an unfortunate logjam when it comes to expanding the armed forces. And we should remember, buying equipment is one thing, but we need the soldiers and officers. And do we have enough people willing to serve in the armed forces? And that's where I worry that we will have the real complication, because, for example, Germany is already having trouble recruiting enough soldiers to the Bundeswehr as it is. Will we have enough soldiers across the West to fill all these positions and to man all these weapons that we are planning on buying? And if not, all that weaponry is really of no use.